So welcome everyone to this webinar. We have Thake from AVASK and we have Mag from Eva. So let's talk a little bit about how we can make your Amazon business grow in 2023. Unfortunately, OFX could not make it today. So we're gonna do it alone. That's fine as well. So last time we had some problems with the visual. I hope nobody recalls that, but I still kept going and we finished the webinar very, very well. So let's do this. Mike, would you like to begin?
Absolutely, yes. From my perspective, I think a stronger business is going to revolve around just doing a lot of analysis and finding out how you can grow and expand your ecom business cross borders. So you need to start making the right sort of decisions at the right time to ensure your business is in very much a very sort of, if you like, a strong positioning, because after all, we've got an economic downturn and a recession looming, which means that if you diversify your business and you get your business looking in a much tidier shape, then you should be able to continue to weather the storm and build a stronger, more resilient business. So from my perspective, I think the first thing you need to do is start looking at the marketplaces and the availability really within those marketplaces. And from my perspective, especially, I mean, I always go back to one slide, which is talking about the size of the North American marketplaces versus Europe. When you consider that the US has got $908 billion of revenue, and Canada's got another $61 billion of revenue. Those two still are very, very good options for e-commerce sellers. But as you start looking towards Europe, the European marketplace value is around $828 billion, which basically means that Europe has got as many, if not so many beautiful examples of how you can grow into a new marketplace and expand your business cross borders.
I have the slide here for you, if you would like me to put it on.
Yes, please. Absolutely. That'd be great.
Okay, let's share my screen. Oh, this is going to be fun again. Here we go. Can you see it? I have two screens, so I hope this is the right one.
I can't see anything yet, but that might just be me. Oh, I can now.
Here we go. Perfect. Make it big as well. Yeah, we can just start. That's okay. I'm going to figure out how we're going to put this on the full screen afterwards.
Okay, if down at the bottom at the taskbar, you should see a little present icon. Just left, right, just just below apply to all. There's a button.
Ah, okay, yes, I can see that. Apply to all.
Yeah, and then down the bottom below apply to all. There's a little screen icon.
Okay.
There's a little screen icon down the bottom.
I can see that.
Yeah. Just right, right there it is. Next
okay, no,
minus. It's
don't
fine.
Really. Yeah, I can see this one.
Yeah.
Okay, we got it.
There
Perfect.
We go. Okay, so if we skip on, as I said, so if we start looking at marketplace sizes, we should be able to see the sizes represented there. Okay, so you've got the US there at 908 billion. And you've got Canada at 61 billion. Now, this means that America is one of the most developed marketplaces for online resellers. Europe is just following up in close second place to the American marketplaces. And as you can see, the UK is still the crown of the European markets for e-commerce revenue. Germany is second place. France is third place. all of those marketplaces, they are extremely good places to expand a business into. But before you do that, I mean, the other thing you can consider is the global marketplaces. So when you're starting to look at things like marketplace size, you've got to consider that channel is equally as important as the location of where the sellers are and where the revenue is. So if you skip on to the next slide, you can see under the global marketplaces, North America, they've got a completely different marketplace set to South America. You'll see that Asia and the APAC region has got a completely different set of marketplaces to Europe, for example. And this just basically goes to show that there are opportunities throughout the world, and sometimes the obvious choice of marketplace isn't necessarily the best one. I think this slide just basically shows just how diverse it really is. And when you consider that Frugo in the United Kingdom has got around 10.2 million visits per month versus Otto in Germany, and Poland, look at Allegro, 193.3 million visits per month. These are figures that you can't ignore when you're considering a diversification strategy. So going forward, I think if you're looking to expand your business, there are a number of steps that you need to actually take into account. I personally think there's about 8 of them, and I think you'll find from this, I think both Omar and Hai can fit into these eight steps as well. And I think the first step is self-explanatory. Do your research. Okay. What are the needs of the online shoppers would like to meet? What product would you sell easily online? How do UK and EU customers buy your products? And do you need to create a website in each EU country? These are all questions you need to ask yourself as you are actually expanding your business. What does a typical avatar look like for your business? That's a very key question as well. The second step there is, do I need to set up a company overseas? Well, not necessarily. You can effectively trade from your own country of origin. You don't need to expand into a new you don't need to start a new entity in a new country. Do you need to be domiciled into the US or Europe? You might need to. There might be certain tax advantages. So the idea is behind that is you need to basically do your research and find out whether or not you need to set up a company overseas. Now, obviously, AVASK can help you with that sort of thing, and we can actually give you a dedicated account manager that will basically help you to identify the benefits of expanding overseas and whether or not you want to set up your own entity versus trading from afar. There are lots of different opportunities out there, I think, and you know, knowing your finances is the second thing. You've got to do cost analyses. You have to put together your overseas budget. You need to do a product cost analysis. You don't want to be selling your product at a loss. And you also need to bear in mind the differences when you're trading overseas. Like, for example, if you're in the US, sales tax you need to add on, whereas in the UK and EU, all the prices include VAT. So you might be selling your product cheaper than you actually want to. So next, the next one is obviously setting up a Forex account. That's another way that you can actually save some money. If you're using Amazon's exchange rates, I think it works out at something like it's 4% intercurrency transaction rate. Forex companies can charge around 1.5%, so you can save 22.5% on transaction fees just by setting up a Forex account. And you can do that through a number of different people. I mean, OFX, they're one example. Payoneer, they're another. And then you might even want to combine that with a finance option. There are other partners like Sellers Funding that can also offer you finance to fund your expansion as well. So that's another really good point to bring up there. So yeah, being compliant with local rules is also very, very key. You need to check a number of different things. For example, check it whether product compliance, are CE markings required for your product. Do you need to register for any import numbers? For example, do you need an EORI number when trading in the UK or in EU? Well, you're going to need to get one of those before you can start trading. So you need to think about that before. Have you got an experienced shipping and customs clearance agent? That's another key thing. Are your products going to make it across the border, or are they going to be delayed? Because those sorts of delays can cost money, especially if you're waiting for stock to clear and you've got sellers wanting to, buyers wanting to buy your goods. It can be quite a tricky one, that one. You obviously need to make sure you're registering for local taxes. That could be VAT if you're in Europe, or if you're in the US, sales tax, or Australia, GST. There's many different forms of the same indirect taxes throughout the world. And you need to ensure that every time that you are expanding into a marketplace, are you going to trigger a local tax requirement? So like, for example, if you're expanding into France, if you're not storing goods, you can trade cross-border. But if you are, and you need OSS or IOSS if you're trading from afar, but equally, if you're storing goods in the country, you're immediately going to need a VAT number. So those sorts of things are very, very, very key, I think. You need to make sure you know whether or not, whether you've triggered a tax liability. You need to make sure that you're also hiring the right experts in the respective fields. For example, if you're going to be trading cross-border, you're going to need to speak to an e-commerce accountant. They will help you to pick through the minefield of legislation that occurs. If you're going into a new market, you're going to need to consider localization. And that's another key thing you need to consider. You need to have the right expert in the right field to advise you. And then, of course, you're going to want to protect your business. So you're going to need to register and apply for trademarks and brand registry. I think it's those are very key. Those are very key things to consider as well. Number 6 on the list there is, where do you store your goods? Are you using FBA? Are you using a 3PL? Are you drop shipping? Or are you using your own merchant network? You need to make those sorts of things to actually decide whether or not you're going to be, which route you're going to be taking on that. And that's, again, very, very key to your expansion internationally. Number 7, localization. I think Omar can talk more about that than me.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so yeah, let's just move on, and I will jump in later on, and we'll finalize this for the localization part.
I've covered most of those. I've covered most of those slides now. While
Okay.
they were sat there. I think.
Would you want to go on, or should I go off?
No, that's fine. If you want to put it back to the previous slide that we were on.
Okay.
And the one before. Go back one more. There we go.
All good.
And obviously, when you're expanding your business, you need to start thinking global, and that is a very, very key thing you need to do when you're expanding your business. You need to build a global brand mindset and have an exit plan from day one. Build your standard operating procedures and find ways of basically making a resilience. I mean, we're all very good at sellers are very good at selling products, but are they business managers? You need to get into the business management mindset. You need to grasp your customer avatars and feel their specific needs. And don't forget, you need to also build a culture within your own organization. Finally,
Definitely.
Don't forget to pay yourself. You need to pay yourself. You're going to need to obviously make sure that you're still surviving as well at the same time.
Yeah, sure. 100%. I agree with that.
So yeah, that's all from me, I think, for the moment.
Okay.
8 steps to expand internationally. I have got a checklist to go through at the end, but I think that's more of a summary thing.
Okay, should I go to the checklist?
Yeah, go to the end. Go to the end. Let's go to the expansion checklist.
Okay, expansion. I got it.
That's fine. Let's just keep that one. So every e-commerce seller, when they're expanding their big business, they need to be considering these 12 points. Okay. So As I've mentioned, your first on your checklist is do your research. So research, research, research. Make sure you know what your competitors are doing, and make sure you know what is going on in the market. Set your goals is number 2. Decide what you want to achieve. That is very key when you're starting on setting up and expanding your e-commerce business. You need to find the balance between quality and quantity. That again can be very, very, very delicate balance. Are your consumers going to want to feel something more quality as opposed to a cheaper item? Find the balance that makes that absolutely clear. You need to start with the largest marketplace available to maximize your sales potential. So start considering the US if you're not already there, or the UK, or Germany, or France. Get the big ones under your belt, and then the smaller ones you can expand into as well. It's great. Ensure that you stay compliant. Engage with an accountant. That's the biggest one on my list, actually. I think that should be number 1, because the problem you've got is if you're trading overseas, you may not even know that you've actually triggered a liability. So you need to make sure you've got that under your belt. And obviously localize your listings to ensure that your products are closer to your customers. Have a plan B in terms of sourcing and trading strategies. So don't rely just on one factory. What happens if that factory suddenly goes offline? Make sure you've got backups. Make sure you've got backups of your backups. And of course, make sure if you're using things like shipping 3PL providers, make sure there is another option in case something does actually happen and that you need to go on from there. Cheap doesn't always mean that you will generate a profit. Don't always necessarily go for the cheapest option. Try and find a decent balance there. And remember, always plan, because that's the key to success. Finally, the last couple of points are ensure you have a marketing and advertising strategy in place, and make sure you stick to it. And don't abandon your basket. Investigate as to why that may lead to abandonment of payments. So you always got to make sure you're finding out from your clients why they're not buying or what they're doing. And you've got to keep your ears to the ground. Number 12, most important thing is obviously don't forget to pay yourself.
Perfect. That sounds already really perfect. Okay, let me just close down this show, and here we go again, and stop share. So that's was really good from Mike. AVASK is surely always here to help if you have any questions of taxes or anything what is going on in the European Union, even in the US. Myself, it's it's a lot for the European Union in order to get everything going. It's I would say it's more a headache than losing money. It's not about that you lose the cash. It's a bit of a headache, but it will get paid, because don't forget that the population of the US is about the same as all over Europe. So there's a lot of money to make and lower entry points. So this little headache of the taxes, you can bear it, and just stick with AVASK, and they will guide you the right way.
I've seen we've actually got a question from an anonymous attendee saying, should I start by selling in Germany? I can answer that if you want me to go ahead.
Please, yes.
Okay, so that all depends on the product you're selling and what your business model is at the moment. It is one of the largest marketplaces in Europe, and it is definitely one that you should consider. I think there are many advantages. If you're working on platforms, you need to consider those, because obviously there's more than one platform that you can use in Germany, but Amazon is in there. So is I think it's Kaufland, that's formerly Real.de. You've got Otto Group. There's lots of opportunities, and it is one of the most developed markets in Europe. And I would say it's definitely one that should be on your hit list. If you want advice into how to expand into Germany, there are a couple of things that you need to do. If you're not already trading in the EU, you're going to need to get an EURI number. If you're going to be storing goods in Germany, you're going to need to have obviously a VAT number. And that is the key thing, is making sure you have a VAT number before you start trading in Germany, because they will shut you down if you're not compliant. So, and they're one of the more rigorous ones. And it does take a little bit of time to get a German VAT number. So you might also want to consider shipping from another country while your German VAT number is going live. Okay.
Great. We got another one here, I think.
Okay, if my product sells very good in the US, but don't exist in Germany or France, should I still try it, or is it risky? Is there no demand? Well, at the end of the day, I mean, if you're doing sales in the US and your product is selling very well there, 9 times out of 10, if your product's selling well in the US, it will also sell well in the UK and potentially in the EU. So what you need to do is you need to just basically analyze what marketplace you're going to be entering and find out what products are best suited for those marketplaces. There's always, if you're selling electronics and consumer goods, that's very, very good for Germany. If you're selling fashion and apparel, that is very good for Italy. So it all depends on what you're selling and where you're selling it and how you're selling it. So I would say before you take that leap, what you need to do is you need to get some advice and maybe do some research. So start with the research and find out. You can speak to a business consultant at AVASK. They can provide you with more support as well if that was it. Does anyone else want to weigh in on this one?
I think you said it all. What I would still say is always look into the cultural differences, because the US is different from the European Union and different from the UK. What sells in the US might not sell in Germany, but might sell in France. You never know, because Germany and France, they have slightly different approaches. For example, the French customers generally don't. Okay, I don't want to say something wrong, but it's like that. The French customer don't really like products from outside. Especially when it's from the US. Oh, it's an US product. Why we can source it from home? Why should we not take it from home? So this is generally the French customer. Now the German customer has a very strong connection with the US because of all the everything what happened and all the military what is in Germany. So there were a lot of American products actually in Germany. So they might have another approach. What about the consumer products which are in Germany? So like I said, the difference is you need to test it. You need to test it or ask Margin Business, for example. We can do research. We have a look how different customers reacting to these products. We have softwares which tell us this. Hi knows the data is king. And before you go into such a market, just let us know, and we're happy to help with that.
I would also say one other thing: if you're considering France or Germany, you don't need to also just consider VAT and OSS as 2 of the schemes. OSS is the European one-stop shop, which allows you to trade across borders. You also need to now consider EPR, which is eco contributions for France and Germany. So those are just a couple of things you also need to be aware of before you start selling. So I'll just leave that one there as well.
Okay, perfect. Hi, I give you the stage now.
Hey, thank you. Maybe you repeat the question. What are we talking about here? It's almost 23 minutes ago. I guess you are more interested to understand in 23 how the brands will grow, right?
Exactly. That's what we need to know. That's what we're here for, actually.
Yeah, exactly. So first of all, I mean, when I look at 22 versus 23, and I'm seeing that, a lot of Amazon gurus are doing some predictions, and I have some predictions as well. And I think, the most important one will be, so there is also a potential recession coming in the US. Obviously also in Europe, maybe, if not in other places. And we're going to be seeing that maybe like 2 things. Number one, we're going to be seeing that the brands that are focused on profits and profitable sales growth, that will be more important. So everybody will ask for like, what's the best way to grow profitably rather than just grow? That brings a lot of questions, you know, like that first part. So first of all, for example, the other thing that we'll look at is the Amazon's way to invest in Amazon. We have seen that the ad revenues increased dramatically, like, you know, also the cost and the revenue for Amazon, the cost for the sellers. I believe my prediction is there will be a double-digit growth on the ad revenue on the Amazon side, and Amazon will bet heavily to invest and to grow their ad revenues now, which is normal. And it comes with some great data and tools. So I think that Amazon will give more data to the sellers for better decisions, more data, more tools to make sure that the ad is optimized in the best way. But that doesn't change the fact that Amazon will bet heavily on getting more ad revenue, right? And that's very obvious because the cost of ad revenue is like it's 100% pure profit in a way for Amazon if you exclude all the R&D and marketing. So it makes a lot of sense because also the change we see with the Amazon last year, which started, it's a huge company. When the change starts, it takes time. But with Andy Jassy, with the CEO and the new team, what they are trying to do is they're trying to make Amazon even more profitable. Where in fact, for 20 years, it was a company of like growth, like just grow, don't, you know, they don't care too much about profitability because the stock is always going up, the valuation is going up, so it's all good, right? But in the new economy today, we know that the stock prices already went down significantly. It may not change in 23. We will not expect that Amazon stock will double, you know, the stock price will double in 23. So which means that there will be a huge focus on the ad revenue, and to make it work, there will be a lot of data and tools. Now, if we go back to the seller side, the sellers thing, profitability is the most important, and how to increase the profits. I think that will be the seller side prediction from my side. Now, it also means a lot of sellers look at how they can run campaigns much better, like how they can learn PPC more, and also how to reduce their ACOS or how to use ACOS. I think that, you know, we will see that like a lot of sellers will not be maximizing their profits if they only look at the ACOS. And that's one of the things that I recommend. Like, don't look at your ACOS only, but check it out, like, you know, all the other things, all the other KPIs that are also important for you. Number one, for the mature sellers, not for the newcomers, but for the mature sellers, the TACOS will be more important. Like, how much of your revenue is ad sales and how much is organic sales? And if you are able to keep, let's say, your TACOS below 10%, hey, why do you really care about ACOS? Like, then, you know, just go and invest more because your TACOS is already low. Then you don't need to care that much about ACOS. Or maybe a second thing is per product, the expectation of ad spend depends on the profit. A lot of sellers today, they don't run their campaigns based on the profitability or based on the profit, but they just stick to like, hey, I have this store target 25% ACOS. And then that target at the store level is given to, like, you know, the product level target 25, campaign level 25. It just goes like that. But every product is different. Every product's profit is different. Like, if you are making 5% from product A and 20% margin from product B, why should you have the same ad spend, right? Because you're going to be spending more money with the product, you know, that you make the more margin. Where today's tools, like one of the things that I see today's, you know, way of doing advertising is very much not related to the profit, which needs to be related. Like it needs to be related with the total sales. That's where the tacos comes into the picture. And it needs to be related also with the profit per product versus like the bid level or campaign level decisions. I mean, these are kind of like two very important things. And maybe the third one is the inventory related decisions, because again, the campaigns do not work. They don't know how much inventory you have. But if you are low on inventory and you are still spending money on the ads, probably it doesn't make sense. But although it sounds simple, I can assure you that a lot of sellers do not have the time. It's a time problem that, you know, they check like the campaigns, not only from an ACOS point of view. That's the only thing they do, because like every campaign has like, let's say 100 keywords, maybe 20 keywords. There is so many things to check, versus also to check that based on the profit, tacos, as well as the inventory levels. Now, if you combine all these things together, I think more and more we're going to be seeing that PPC or the advertising will be seen as a component that is better to outsource rather than in-source. But then it comes back to the same point of like being profitable, like whether it makes sense to outsource, because if it is more expensive, then probably it will stay in-source. But I think that, you know, there will be more investments on the PPC side. And when I talk to the brands, one of the things that I ask them, do you want to become an Amazon PPC expert? Which is fine, you know, which is a good skill to have. Or do you want to grow your brand and focus on your brand? Because being a PPC expert versus growing your brand are two different things. And I see that a lot of sellers today in 22, they do the trade-off. Like they, of course, like spend a lot of time in PPC, but next year, PPC will be maybe 2 times more complicated with the competition, with all the other parameters that I mentioned that needs to be looked at, and even other tools that are coming from Amazon. It will be more complicated. Then it's a trade-off now. Hey, dear Mr. Amazon brand owner, do you want to sell more and focus on your brand and focus on your expansion strategy to make your products better, check the feedbacks, you know, innovate, add more products, more variations, or you want to spend your time on PPC? Because then you can be a great PPC specialist too. But it's a trade-off. My recommendation is not to become the PPC specialist, but to focus on the brand. But Amazon PPC will become more sophisticated in 23, more data, more tools, more parameters to check. So that will be the area that I would be, you know, very interested to see how it will develop and how the brands will take it. I can't hear, Omar, I cannot hear you.
Okay, now, okay.
Yeah,
Sorry.
okay.
Now, I wanted to say, because it's very true with the PPC, because the US is always upfront with all the new technology, and from what I know already, that it's what is in place, it's the geo traffic or the geo targeted tool, which includes now the PPC is running in the US, and if this gets more sophisticated, I definitely see some really bright direction where we head for the PPC, and not the first generation that we are running at the moment worldwide. then we're going to look into the second and third generation. And I think this will look much, much more professional than what we're looking right now. And then obviously the CEOs or the company owners will not be capable anymore to play with it as they play with it right now, and should not do it anymore, as I said, and get professional help in order to make this 100% good without losing any money. Because as well, when the tools get better, obviously the per click rate will go up, and you don't want to lose out and say make some mistake and then wake up and have a crazy amount sitting on your head. So, or on the long term, to lose, leaving money on the table where you can hire somebody who does it for you. So this is definitely something you need to look into. We have 2 questions here.
Yeah, let me take it, Omar.
Okay.
So it's more about PPC looks like. Of course, Mike, you can jump in if you have other things.
I was just going to say, the only thing I wanted to say was I totally agree with what you're saying. Outsource to a specialist. Don't try and be a master of everything. Focus on where your strength is, which is building your brand and selling your products.
Absolutely. So, and there is this first question comes like, who can enjoy PPC? Only a few gifted people, I guess. Well, that's not like, I mean, that's right. But also the challenge that I see here is like, when I go, when I check LinkedIn, there is like thousands of people who call themselves the PPC specialists or experts.
Oh, it's just getting more and more,
Whether they have like a 1 week experience or they were certified on a course after 2 hours and now they are the master of PPC. So that's really challenging. But at the same time, I also understand like the sellers, because I mean, if they get, I mean, at the end of the day, it's also a cost problem, right? Like, what's the cost of outsourcing the PPC versus keeping it in-source, or maybe using a VA directly rather than, for example, using a company with PPC specialists. So the way that I address this question is like, first of all, like, for example, in Eva, we built our own PPC automation because it makes, unfortunately, no sense to try to do everything manually. So the automation is the key. Doesn't need to be super sophisticated, but using, I mean, we also already have the artificial intelligence experts because there are a number of parameters go into that PPC decisions. So the automation is the key. So that's one thing. But then a lot of sellers ask me whether they can rely 100% on automation. And my answer is a clear no. If you're just using a tool and think that the tool will make it work, it's not possible. I'm telling you, it will be only a suboptimal solution because there are so many parameters that needs to be looked at by a human expert. And some of these decisions are business decisions. So which means that with that business decisions, it makes sense to combine the automation with the PPC specialist. And that's kind of like, at least our approach in Eva. We combine it and we try to make it in terms of price as cost effective as possible, because we know that it's already one of the biggest problems for the sellers. So that's kind of like, get the best expert, get the AI-based automation, and have the lowest cost. If there is anybody who is able to do it, maybe, I mean, I'm trying to do it on Eva, but if there's anybody like who is claiming that they are doing it, dear Amazon sellers, go and work with them because these are the best guys. That's what I think. So that's kind of like my my approach to that. And the second is, are PPC costs same in all EU countries or are they cheaper than in the US? Very broad question, like, because it depends on the category, it depends on the product, but we can say that obviously the penetration in US is much more compared to the penetration of like the sellers in Europe. Like, I mean, that's already Mike was showing us like the marketplaces and the even extension beyond Amazon. But if we look at on Amazon, if we compare like France versus US, I mean, obviously France is maybe, let's say, a state of US, like in that sense, and there is less sellers and there is less also entrance from outside, outside sellers, like, like from China, from Africa, from Latin America. But in US, it's like everybody is first starting with US, right? So obviously from that respect, you can assume that the CPC, which is the cost per click, in general, will be cheaper in Europe compared to US. Or maybe to also reinforce what Mike mentioned, why it makes sense to expand, because maybe your product doesn't have that many of competition as you have in US if you go to, for example, in France. And maybe you'll be the #1 seller in France, although it's a smaller market, but maybe your market share will be much bigger compared to US because you take the necessary steps to localize with margin business, to expand your business to France, which you don't know the language and any of the rules, by using, a company like AVASK. So basically, you already did these things that the others didn't do, because everybody always goes for the low-hanging fruit, which is US. So if you combine all these things, it makes sense to say that the PPC costs are cheaper than the US, but you still need to build your local strategy in that country to be successful.
I think that's the answered already the question here. And yeah, for let's Mike, do you have any questions for him? I mean, for the PPC.
No, I don't have anything directly about PPC. PPC is really, it's not my strength. It's it really isn't. But one of the things that I would like to say is actually in 2023, we're going to see real hard financial decisions having to be made, because there is a financial crisis on the horizon. It is getting worse out there. Sorry, not PPC. E-commerce sellers and e-commerce members of the community, they're going to need to make sure that they build a resilient business. And I think you're going to do that by diversifying, making sure you've got a very strong diversification strategy in mind. So try and find more than one way of selling your products, and use that, and use all of the tools out there that can assist you with growing and expanding your business cross-border into new markets. I think it's going to really be resilience testing. Those people that are building those sorts of businesses where they are diverse and they are on multiple marketplaces, they're using multiple providers, they are succeeding and they are still gaining market share and traction. So I think that's going to be key in 2023, is making sure you have a resilient business plan, and making sure that your business plan is in a position where you've got diversification at the heart of everything you're doing. That could be anything really: diversifying your advertising strategy, diversifying your market strategy, your marketplaces, the countries where you're operating. It really does. I really do think that is a key strategy that you need to consider going forward.
And on top of that, everything is growing, everything is getting bigger. It's, when I look at it, the world is so big, and when we look at this, everything is small, still very, very small. We're not even like we talked about before, Mike, infancy. We're barely out of the baby age in the e-commerce, where it's going to be a whole other level very soon, and that's as well with the trends and everything. We should not stop ourselves to do everything manually, to do everything myself, to not using software, because at the end, if you don't use software, you're going to stay small. That's about it. It's if you're looking at it like that, you need to have software, you need to have procedures, everything. We need to be prepared for growth. The years ahead will be very big. In a few years, we will be looking at drones delivering to us. It's just another world what is waiting for us out there. So adapting and doing your research is, I think, the best thing moving forward. And this is how we will close it. I will do my little presentation right now, talking about the localization and optimization of listings. Not specifically, not technically. I would go even more, because this is what I've seen is more in demand. The cultural aspects of everything around the e-commerce, as we are moving into an international world marketplace every day, talking with international people from other countries. We need to understand who we actually are talking to, although we don't see them right now. We will be definitely having more interaction after COVID. I mean, to fly and be around others here tomorrow, today in Europe, tomorrow in the UAE or in Qatar, or we have seen it with the football. Everything is it's not only one world. There is thousands of worlds out there, and the customers are there. The customers are not anymore at our doorstep. So we need to understand our customer. I hope you can see everything.
Yeah, can see that fine. Oh, now it's disappeared.
You cannot? Okay, then this was only the second screen. Okay, you can see it now, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, let me just make it bigger. Okay, so let's go. Okay, so it will be very quick. Don't worry. It's just a quick follow through about this kind of sum up what we have been talking about, but not specifically in the direction what Hai or Mike has been talking about. So I am your host. This I will go through. Then we have why we do need the listings localized, translation options, why Google Translate is not the answer, and why should you invest into native services. I will build this a little bit out, because these points are a little bit, most of people, they know the answers to these points. That's why I will go a little bit further with it. So first of all, I haven't presented myself yet, but my name is Omar Angri. I'm the CEO of Margin Business, and the co-founder of Margin Business. And we do this since 10 years. So we localize listings. We understand that the world is an international marketplace, and we need to go to our customers, into their houses, in front of their doorsteps, and present them the goods the customer would like to sell to them. As right now, it will be hard that somebody from, let's say, from the US want to sell, let's say, in France, and uses his knowledge from the US and brings it to the European Union and sells there. So that's why we are here. We are localizing his listings. We're helping him to understand his customer, and we're helping him as well to sell the right product to the customer. Because what happened if the customer don't really want the product what is selling in the US and has 10,000 reviews, and going to France and nobody want to sell, nobody want to buy it, or less people want to buy it. Let's say it this way. So this is what we mainly do. We are here to bring the customer directly to help you understanding your customer. So why do you need your listings to be localized? So there are 28 different countries in the European Union, and my guess is within the next years, Amazon will have, in all of these countries, will have marketplaces. So we are already at 8 now. 2022, from 2010, we had only, like, I think it was 3, if I'm not mistaken, in 2010. And then we slowly added the other marketplaces. We added Spain, Italy, and then we had the Netherlands, Sweden, Poland, and Belgium. So we're really growing. So I know already we're going to be, I don't know how long it will take, maybe 2030. Then we have Amazon marketplaces all over the place. I forgot Amazon Sweden, I think. So that is why you need to understand where you are selling, because all of these countries have different cultures, all of these countries have different customers, all of these countries like different products, up to an extent where I would say if obviously everyone likes certain products, but there's different products, there's different approaches, there is maybe others like it more. So you need to really to think where to sell it to and to sell it correctly. Okay, so let's go to the next one. The 3 types of translations. So there's the Google Translate, which is Amazon giving you and trying to sell you for free, which is not good at all, and which cost you more money than make you any money, and maybe not even get you ranked in the algorithm. So I don't even understand why Amazon anyway is proposing this, because your listing will be literally at the ground if you present yourself as a company, as a professional, serious seller, putting Google Translate in no matter what language you're putting on. Native language is good, but localization is better. Why is localization better, and what is the difference? So the difference is that when you translate, there will be somebody who's translating your listings from, for example, from the US into German or French, and will translate it as it is. Okay, here's the translation. Thank you very much. Okay, you pay for that, and that's it. The localization is somebody who is sitting there and actually understands the customer, understands Amazon, understands marketing, is a copywriter, and has researched your product, so got familiar with the product. So this is as well the person which will say, hey, listen, Omar, I don't really recommend that you're selling this product here, because in France the indications say it's not good to sell it, so you should not do it. So this is the 3rd one. So there is these 3 different options, and I really highly recommend look into the 3rd option, because it's your best bet that you can get really your product sold in one of these marketplaces. So why Google Translate is not the answer? I'll make it very quick, this one, because it should not be, there should not be too many things what we should talk about. Why not Google? There's the first point is that in general, people will not feel confident buying a product from you, especially it's already a foreign product. Let's say it's not from the US, or it's not from France, or it's not from Germany. It hasn't produced in any of these countries. So people are already saying, okay, I don't know, maybe it's a baby product, maybe it's a sports product, we don't know. But in general, skepticism. Then they read the listing, and it has not been written by a native speaker. The pictures are not adapted. Just had been photoshopped. You can see that it's photoshopped. So the whole listing is upside down for our eyes, and skepticism in the eyes of the customer. So what we have to do, we have to try to not do this. So I call this a messy listing. And nobody wants to buy, for example, from a storefront or from a store, which is messy. So everything needs to be 100% in all of these things. So you either learn it, how to do it, or you hire a company like Margin Business to do it for you. But I highly recommend not to do it directly straight away. Either you learn it, like I said, or you hire professionals. There's other companies out there as well. So why is it not the best practice? I wrote you a bad practice, but why is not the best practice for Fiverr and Upwork? I mean, there are 100% capable people on Fiverr and on Upwork, don't get me wrong, but they are not in your team. So they're not in our team, for example. So that means we should hire somebody from Upwork who has no clue how we work, who has no clue about Amazon, who has no understanding of the whole marketplace situation. So it's very, very, very important to have somebody who knows all of this. We need the competitive research, you need the localization experience, you need the translations, how the translations are made, how the localizations are made, and the keyword research at the end. As somebody who has no clue about, always has never heard about keywords, cannot help you with the keyword research. Okay, he can translate some keywords, which I would not recommend at all. Still, people are doing it, You know who you are. And it's just, you know, you losing sales with that. I'm not making fun or making jokes. You're losing sales with that. This is real money which goes off the table if you translate your keywords. Okay, so really try to do everything 100%, because customer want 100% right now. Customers are literally spoiled. They're spoiled with products. They're spoiled with the listings. So you need to stand out in order to sell. So, okay, let's move on. If not, I'm going to talk too much about this. Why is it important to know your international customer? As already mentioned in the pictures before, we had this little flags everywhere. So it's different culture, different language, different perception, different opinion, and different needs. So we have the whole globe. Everything is different. So in one way, it's even easy to do it. You know, you just go, you understand one country, you sell your product there, and everything is happy. You know, everything is good because you did your research. So don't forget, you need not only to speak your customer's language, you need to speak their language, like culturally as well, because they have different perception as you. They have different opinion about products or about services or about photos and you, and they have different needs. Because a customer, for example, from Germany have different needs from a customer from Spain. Most of the time it's sunny in Spain. Most of the time it rains in Germany, just as an example. So maybe you should not sell an umbrella into Spain. Just an example. It just came over my head like that. Sorry. Okay, so everything that I was speaking about now, I think makes sense for bigger companies, makes sense as well for smaller companies, and makes sense for smaller sellers. But the smaller sellers don't have that much investment, and maybe the mid-sized companies don't have that much investment. I know that the big companies have that investment, and they are already following this through because they don't want to miss the train. As I already said, we're in baby shoes right now. We're in baby stage, and the whole e-commerce will grow. And we need to grow with it. We need to understand it before in order to make these profits. So it's a lot of work. It's a lot of money to invest and a lot of time to organize. Yes. So this is where, for example, companies like AVASK can help. This is where with Eva Guru can help, a very sophisticated software. So you literally only have to check what is going on and act on the data. And for us, for example, it's the whole cultural aspect of the listings. So if you look at it, we are three companies. We can take care of almost every need what a customer wants, and we have a big network where you can fall as well back on, where we can fall back on and ask others if they need help with that. So really just look at the webinar again, check out what you need, and that's about it. I think we spoke about this already. So yeah, any questions? Happy to reply.
There's one waiting for you in the Q&A there, Omar.
Thank you for attending. Okay, so I think we are off yes, now we're off. Great. So yes, there's one in the Q&A. Let's get this one. Let's get this one where we got it here. Open. Okay. Oh, yes. You should as well translate the text on the product images and on A+. Don't leave it out. For example, I gave this example as well when I was in at the speakers event in the UAE last week, because they asked this question about the Arabic. Should we change, although the listings will be only in English on the UAE, Amazon UAE, should we change the language into Arabic? And my answer was yes, you need to change it into Arabic. And English would be the best, because there's a lot of expats. Obviously, there's about 90% expats in the UAE, and the rest is only Emiratis. So, but still, there's a large speaking Arabic population. So yes, you should most of the time translate this. So, for example, if it's from English into German or into French, yes, translate this on the pictures, definitely. And A+, the same, and adapt your photos. So don't assume that, for example, for Germany is you should use the same photos as for the UAE, or for Saudi, use the same photos as for France. Really go deep, know your customer, and react to it. I think done. Okay, so yeah, if there's not any more questions right now, I think we can close this down. This was exactly an hour. We didn't go live in all the places. I know it's my fault. Sorry about that. I will post the video everywhere afterwards. We are currently only live on Zoom and Facebook. I clicked too fast, and if you click too fast, then it's gone. The train is gone, so you cannot put it live anymore in the other channels. But anyways, I've seen there is a few people online, and definitely we will post this everywhere we can, and nobody will miss this one, because I think it's very, very important and will give lots of value for the community. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Hai. Thank you, attendees. It was amazing, and we are looking forward to doing this every month with different speakers, different topics, to bring the latest news of the Amazon world, the e-commerce world, the international e-commerce world. And yeah, thank you.
Thanks very much.